Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year!
All the
Hard to
best.
believe. I know. It's hard to believe we're already 2025, and I am so thankful every day when I'm in clinic that there is that automatic date button, because I am the notorious person that halfway through the year, I'm still using the wrong year. So I was very thankful that in my book, as I'm writing it out, because I'm an old school, like write things in a notebook, I'm like 2024, cross it out. I'm like, nobody can see it. Nobody can question my chart notes because it's the proper dates.
Well, I've skipped 2025 a couple times. I put 2026.
Okay.
I've skipped a whole year.
You're very
And
forward
I get
thinking.
through email and they go, "Do you mean 2025?" I'm like, "Oh, yes."
Yes.
Oh,
I
that's so
rushed
funny.
my life away. It's already
I know.
going fast enough.
Oh, I
So
love your
there's,
background. And Louise, are you cottage side, or is that a nice virtual one?
Yeah, I found this nice virtual one, so I can imagine that the fireplace is going on behind me and my back is nice, but no.
Yes, for those, I know we have people that join us from across the globe. That's in Ontario. It's at least where I am, and I know Beth, you're at home. It's quite chilly there. It's like -20 Celsius here, and I was like, it's a little chilly. So I want to sit beside my fireplace tonight. That's for sure.
I have a similar fireplace in our living room, and I'm thinking I'm going to add that mantle now. 'Cause
Yes.
it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
I
great
just
idea.
used it up this morning.
I'll just take a picture.
Oh,
Gee. All
Right. Well, I
that's
think,
one. Yeah.
I think we're good.
All right.
Excellent.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the RDH View. We're so thrilled to have you join us here today for another engaging conversation about the topics shaping our profession. So whether you're tuning in live or watching the recording, we appreciate you taking the time to be here. My name is Kathleen Bocrossi. I'm one of your hosts as well as a moderator for The View, and I'm also the founder and president of RDHU, a professional development company created exclusively for dental hygienists. This month, we're celebrating 16 years. We just came across this yesterday. It was our first calendar from 2009. So just so happy to do what we do. So we have approximately 20,000 members across Canada and around the globe. And my area of expertise includes instrumentation, maintenance protocols, and quality assurance. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
and my name is Carrie Lepacek. I am also in Ontario, as you may have heard already. I have been a speaker with RDHU, I think, since 2000 and around 2009. It was around shortly thereafter. Maybe no, it's not 15 years. Sorry, let me back up. It was definitely not that period of time. I did not start speaking then, but I was a member. I was a member.
It's been 8 years, 9
Okay.
years.
Yes. But we're not counting, right? We're going to leave it at 5 and go from there. But anyway, so my name is Carrie Lepacek. I am still working in clinic 1 day a week. I also work with Clinical Research Dental, where I am the clinical specialist in dental hygiene and education. And I've had the profound pleasure of speaking at RDHU and speaking internationally on many topics: oral biofilm, salivary diagnostics, hygiene process of care. Kind of that oral systemic connection is really what drives me.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Beth Parks. I've been a dental hygienist for about 20 years now, and I'm a presenter for RDHU, and I'm the manager of clinical affairs for Curion. And my areas of interest would be instrumentation and strategic elimination of bacteria, but with therapeutic agents that respect the oral ecosystem. So if you're interested in those topics, then maybe I'll see you later.
Where are your nerd glasses?
My nerd glasses. They're just so perfect for me. I can't be too much of a nerd. I have to sort of hide my nerd a little bit, but I just can't see anything. So if you see me like real close, that's why.
Well, good afternoon, and I'm Anna Louise Tolan, and I have been part of RDHU since the very beginning.
Yes.
This is my 40th year of dental hygiene practice, and my clinical specialties are record keeping. You could join me tonight. I'm going to be doing record keeping from 7 till 9 right across the country. Instrumentation, treatment planning, really utilizing the classifications of periodontal and peri-implant disease and conditions to treat both perio and implant disease and conditions. So yes, perhaps we're going to meet up later with one of those areas of interest.
Not too late to register for national documentation. All right, so just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. If you have anything you just want to say hello, I can see some of you have already done that. Just you can put it into the chat. If you have a question, we hope to be able to address as many as we can. So please use the Q&A section. And yeah, and if you have to leave for any reason, anyone who registers will get a copy of the recording. So with that, I'd like to introduce our lovely guest, Steph Nightingale, which I love your name too. It's just so perfect for you.
Thanks.
So Steph is an experienced dental hygienist with a career spanning 17 years, marked by a people-first approach. I love that. And a commitment to advancing oral health. Her journey in dentistry began right after high school as a dental assistant, where she developed a deep appreciation for patient care. Early in her career, she worked alongside a periodontist who introduced her to the power of the rubber tip stimulator, a tool that would later inspire her innovative creation, the Stimmie. Throughout her career, Steph dedicated over a decade to working in clinical practice, managing complex periodontal cases, and completing an astounding 34,000 dental hygiene appointments. That's wild when you think about it, right? She frequently used the rubber tip stimulator during initial exams to evaluate home care and educate patients about their oral health. Interestingly, she observed that roughly 67% of her patients were completely unaware of the tool, while the remaining 33% had either seen or used it before. These insights, paired with her experience working with All-on-4 and other complex cases, solidified her belief in the tool's potential to transform plaque control and oral care routines. Her passion for patient care became personal when she underwent grafting surgery and relied on a gum stimulator for post-meal plaque control and recovery. This experience sparked the realization that a better, more streamlined solution to the traditional rubber cup or rubber tip or toothpick was desperately needed. Determined to create a tool that was easy to use, portable, and effective, Steph founded the Stimmie. Her innovative design empowers patients to take control of their oral health anywhere, anytime, while addressing the common frustration of flossing and offering alternatives that patients actually enjoy using. With her extensive clinical background, creative vision, and passion for improving oral health, Steph Nightingale is transforming how we think about and manage plaque control, one Stimmie at a time. All right, so we're ready to dive into an exciting conversation. So let's get started. Hello and welcome, Steph. Welcome to the View.
Oh my gosh, this is so, first of all, that was amazing. Like if only you can send that to me and then I can start using that in my own bio. But it's just wild because like everyone, I'm sure I can't see all the people tuning in, but I'm a hygienist who's been following RDHU for majority of my career. So to be on this side of things is something I would have never expected. And everyone loves a good full circle moment. So thanks for having me.
So nice, Steph. Thank you so much. Well, I'd like to start the conversation by highlighting the various applications of the Stimmie. And then after that, I'd love to share how I recently incorporated it into a research paper. But let's begin with this. So what are some typical use cases for gum stimulators and the Stimmie? And can you provide examples of when this tool would be the best option for a patient and situations where you would strongly recommend it over other alternatives?
Yeah, so I'll go in order of just my personal experience with patients. So first and foremost, just plaque control and gum, health and plaque maintenance, essentially. So when you talked about me going in my initial exams with a rubber tip, the first thing I would do is actually pull down lower anteriors on facial because we can't always see the lingual. and just kind of gliding it along and I like to say manicuring along the gum line just to see where people are missing. And then I would go ahead and do the same thing distal of the 7s, or if they had 8s, do it around some pericoronitis, or palatal of any, 6s or 7s, especially if there's furcations, and just kind of show them what they're missing when they're only, brushing their teeth. So just gum health in general. Also, when we see a lot of patients, we're living longer. So people are living, with heart conditions as we age. A lot of those beta blockers that do, promote gingival hypertrophy. We're noticing more plaque getting under the gum visibly and just being able to stimulate. I think I said this on a call with Kathleen the other day. It's like when you get a paper cut, and I say this to my patients, like, what do you do when you cut yourself and you start bleeding? Immediately, we want to put pressure on it to stop and it gets relief. So I kind of love the rubber tip in that aspect. The next is kids and teens in particular, because most of them are in traditional brackets in orthodontics. And we all go through the song and dance of using the water pick, using the super floss. I think super floss was like the go-to OG tool in ortho for years until the water pick came on the scene. And when the water pick came on the scene, and I would ask my patients, like, are you using it? A lot of them would say no, or the parents would tell me my child won't use it, or they need it when they're at school and they're not going to bring this big thing to school. So it's like, okay, if these kids who we can barely get them to brush their teeth, if I can inspire them to do something, like my philosophy is always, I'd rather you do something than do nothing. And I remember getting my prototypes that were like pre-production, and my nephews were all in braces, and no one would ask them. They would just eat, go sit on the couch, sit there watching sports, and start picking around their brackets. I'm like, that is so cool. So just that would be an alternative for your typical braces patient. Post-surgery, again, this is dependent on the protocol of the surgeon or the dentist. So when they are doing implants, all-on-4s, connective tissue grafts, I know that, like I mentioned, or Kathleen mentioned, when I had my connective tissue graft, the protocol was no flossing for 2 weeks. And I think it was after a day or two, they said gentle massaging on the site with the rubber tip. So that's what I remember from my own experience. But also when you look at people with general surgery from trauma or elective or what have you, surgeons will always say massage the wound to speed up healing. So some people will challenge you on efficacy of massaging tissue, but it is out there, and it's been out there forever, that massaging and stimulating blood flow only brings nutrients and oxygen to our cells. And as we know, oxygen is what keeps us vital and healthy and alive. So that's what I love about the post-surgical aspect of it. And then lastly, when I was designing the form factor, I'll never forget showing an elderly patient in my chair the blue Oral-B N-Tuff brush, because he had a hard time. He had a lot of recession, a lot of open embrasures, mobilities, et cetera, and a regular toothbrush wasn't enough. And he didn't like to hold the proxies or the soft picks, and frankly they weren't even fat enough or wide enough for his embrasures. So I showed him the N-Tuff brush, and if you guys remember, it's like a clear acrylic blue, and it's flat, it's not rounded. And what he said to me is, I can't use this thing because I can't hold it, because it was flat. And then I remember another patient had the N-Tuff brush from Gum, the white one with the rubber handle. He said, well, this one's too fat. And then I gave someone a rubber tip. Well, this one's too thin. And I took all of those tools and kind of found a middle ground between all three. And I said, no one's doing finger and thumb impressions, because a lot of times we don't know which way to hold things. So when people ask how to use the rubber tip, I always say rubber to gum and match up the triangles, but it's kind of intuitive when you have those finger and thumb impressions that you know which way it's going to go. So I actually owe it to my patients giving me feedback a decade ago on what they love and dislike about current products, and then how I can implement that into my own form factor.
I love that you brought the finger and thumb, because you're right. It's like, how many times do you hand them something? And it's like, I'm not making fun of my patients. Please know, okay, I love them so much. But it's like we all see those videos on Instagram where the patient's trying to get into the chair and they sit on it weird, all the rest. The same thing happens when you hand them an oral hygiene, or you hand them a toothbrush and it's like a magic wand. It's doing all this stuff. So the fact that you took that feedback and are really trying to make it easier, because there's nothing more uncomfortable than the patient realizing, like, and they're like, oh, that's how you use it. I'm like, how did I miss that? So I really love that you brought that feedback and are really trying to make it easier for the patients and easier for all of us. So I just thought I would just,
And also it feels good, right? You want something that they're going to put in their hand that's going to feel good.
yeah.
It's good.
No, it was all intentional for sure. But
So with your 34,000 patients that you saw, you were doing your own action research project over the years, right, Beth?
and if you asked me, I've always been entrepreneurial. Like, my patients knew that about me. I always had like some fitness thing on the go, some recipe thing on the go, restaurant concierge. Like, my patients and I feel like they knew every facet of my life. If you ever asked me if I was going to innovate a dental product, I would have said that is the last thing you can pay me to do. Like no amount of money in the world could ever inspire me to want to invent a dental product. But I think it's just all those experiences. The signs were screaming at me to do something.
It was your calling.
Apparently, yeah, a blessing in disguise.
All right. So, all right. So the Stimmie has proven to be more than just an oral care tool, but it's also been unexpectedly effective as a stress relief device. Let me just share my screen with you. I'm going to share.
I'm gonna film
You're going to film.
this.
So this is something that one of Steph's clients sent her, that they call it the office Stimmie. So instead of the stress ball, I guess, right?
She said, by the way, you're so kind to give confidentiality. This is my sister's. So my sister keeps this at her desk at work. I won't say where she works, but she said when she's just sitting through meetings or listening to Zooms and she's stressed, she keeps this one at her desk, and this is the one that she chews on so that she doesn't chew her fingernails.
Wow. And speaking of fingernails, so I incorporated the Stimmie into a research paper that I wrote last year as part of my bachelor's degree completion program. So the focus on the paper was on oral health behavior change. And I explored how to help participants overcome their nail biting habits using various behavioral change methods. So I just want to share just a little bit about nail biting in general and how the Stimmie helped my participants. So nail biting is also known as onychophagia, and it's a chronic, repetitive, and compulsive condition commonly observed in children and young adults, which it can persist into adulthood. The current literature estimates that the prevalence of nail biting is at 20 to 30% of the general public. The habit is often associated with anxiety, stress, frustration, boredom, and other emotional factors, and can result in oral health issues like malocclusion, enamel wear, gingival injuries, oral infections, as well as skin infections around the nails and fingertips. And also, chronic nail biters have a higher incidence of Enterobacteriaceae, I think I said that right, Carrie, in their oral cavities. So nail biting not only affects the oral cavity, but it also impacts the overall health of patients. And it can influence their emotional well-being, social interactions, and psychological state, making it a multifaceted issue that requires a comprehensive approach to address effectively. So for the purpose of my research, I chose several behavior change techniques. I applied techniques such as motivational interviewing, where I asked open-ended questions. I practiced reflective listening, and provided daily motivational quotes and habit replacement therapy, just to name a few. And I became passionate about addressing this oral health problem once I started looking into it, because it is yet another unmet need. It is poorly misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and it is an untreated disorder with very little published articles found. I will be presenting my research in the spring issue of Oral Hygiene, and we'll create a presentation on it as well. I have like 45 pages with my research, and I conducted a study or survey with our members, some of our members from RDHU, to see the knowledge and application with dental hygienists, and are they assessing for nail biting? How comfortable are they helping somebody, and do they know how to help? 95% said that they have never been trained on it. Most of the people that answered that they are assessing were myofunctional therapists as well. So this is something that I really want to bring to the forefront, and I look forward to sharing this research with you, whether we have another webinar or we have this topic on The View. I will create something, and also it will be published in Oral Health or Oral Hygiene in the spring. So one of the key strategies was implementing habit replacement therapy. And so to foster collaboration and autonomy, I offered the participants a variety of tools to try. Each participant chose the Stimmie. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. They loved it. They found the Stimmie so easy to use and helpful in managing their nail biting urges. And I initially sent each participant one Stimmie and checked in after a week, and they said, oh, this is great, but I need more. They wanted to have more so they could have one for their car, their desk, their purse, their pocket. So in response to that, I ordered them each a pack of 3, had them sent to them, and they continue to use them. So together we set a goal to stop biting their nails by a specific date in September. And all participants successfully quit nail biting by the target date and have maintained success to this day, which is amazing. Between the tools, motivational support, and behavior change techniques, the Stimmie played a pivotal role in their journey toward breaking this habit. So I wanted to share that with you because that's yet another application for the Stimmie. And I am excited to share more about this research and hope to bring awareness to this disorder.
Unreal. It's honestly such a surprise, and it's so cool. And you're gonna be famous for this paper. It's never been done before. That's awesome.
You can't find information about it. So that's why I was just like, it wasn't easy to find, and it's just not really talked about. So I am excited to further share this information.
I'm excited for
Wow.
that. Like, I think this is probably leaving people with more questions because, like you say, it's not really a topic that we talk about too much.
Yeah.
But like, can I just say, leave it to 2 out-of-the-box thinkers to find each other, and your product and your ability to just sort of think outside of the box or how to use a certain product. I don't know, just a perfect little match here.
When I talk to patients about nail biting, I typically see attrition, and I'll say, do you bite your nails? Do you chew on pens or something, open bottles with your teeth? Or when I see people with notches interproximal on radiographs or clinically, I'll say, do you stick wooden toothpicks between your teeth? So I've always thought of these things as just traumatic to hard tissue and leading to more dental problems. But you mentioned stuff, I mean, you're probably going to go into this in a whole new lecture, but just the bacterial aspect of it,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes.
Like I want to know more about that now, but I don't know if we have time.
Another
Yeah.
episode for sure. I think that would be really interesting because I want to learn more as well.
I'll leave waiting.
Yeah, leave us wanting more. Steph, just talking about like the different uses for the Stimmie, and just going to, you know, maybe the most obvious one, which would be the interproximal cleaning. And I'm thinking of all those patients who were honestly lucky that they even brush their teeth. So we've been having the same conversation, like, are you flossing yet? And they're like, maybe next year. And it's the same conversation that becomes very frustrating. with something like this, how do you approach some of those patients who are the non-flossers, maybe reluctant to try anything different or new? How do you approach them and introduce this?
Yeah, so I do have to start by saying, in like full transparency, this is not something I was comfortable doing at the beginning of my career. So I'm sure like we're all hygienists here, and it's hard to think back to when we first started because we see so many people in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, etc. But if I'm being honest, looking back, I'm very outgoing and very social, but it's like those uncomfortable moments of calling people out. It's okay to do that in my personal life, but like when it's not your practice and you have a boss and you have someone else's business that you're protecting, you can't just be like, well, why aren't you flossing? And some people do have that. And that's also part of things about the profession that give me the ick when you call in the dentist for, I know I'm getting off topic, but I have a point here. When you call the dentist in for a checkup and they walk in and the first thing they say is, are you flossing? And like, I think I did a reel on my Instagram about this. Are you flossing? Are you flossing? And I kept repeating it because it's not actually helping the patient. So what took me a long time to figure out, and once I kind of cracked the code, it was seamless. It got easier. It didn't feel as uncomfortable, is I would initially just zoom out and assume they were lazy and assume that they didn't want to, they just weren't motivated, or their oral health wasn't important to them. Like I have a boss still today, I saw him this morning at CPR, who said like, it's not a priority for all people. Some people prioritize their looks, they prioritize spending money on vacation. They don't want to spend money or time or energy prioritizing their health. So understanding that segment, you just kind of got to respect it, read the room, and let them do their own thing. But I think for myself, as a new hygienist, I assumed that for everyone that didn't floss or use interproximal stuff, they just didn't value it, didn't want to, or they were lazy. As soon as I got comfortable getting 3 feet with the patients and being like, so I know you're not flossing, but like, is there anything that you like to do? Like, I know you're brushing. So aside from brushing, like what else do you like to do? What do you have in your bag, or what do you have in your bathroom? Because not everyone keeps oral care with them. And when you say it like that, they'll say, well, I have a water pick and I have these little brushes and I have X, Y, and Z. And then I'll say, okay, great, but do you use it? Then they say no. And then rather than saying, well, how come? Because those open-ended questions make people uncomfortable. So instead, I would just say, listen, like, I get it. This stuff is hard. Like flossing's very tedious. Like some days I don't do it myself, but like, is it because you just don't know how? And then as soon as they say, yes, like no one's ever shown me, it opened up a whole new world on how I treat my patients. And number one, you can like feel their body relax, because so many patients, if you guys are all, you go out with your friends and family, they will say a lot of the times they hate going to the dentist, not because of the noise, not because of the bill, not because of the anxiety. They hate going in and being lectured. So this, again, this is not general. This has just been my own experience. And as soon as you just say like, listen, I get it, like have empathy and acknowledge that maybe they just don't know how and they've never been shown, their body relaxes. They're like, oh my gosh, this person actually wants to help me. They're not judging me. They're not making me feel bad. They're just truly helping me. That's when I kind of go through my good, better, and best. I'll say like, hey, like this is where you're missing plaque. They might not care if they have plaque on their teeth, but this is where you could potentially lose a tooth all of a sudden. Now they're listening. So I'm like, let me show you a good option, something that's easy to use, easy to clean, painless. A rubber tip might be one of them. It might be a soft pick. It might be an N-Tuff brush or a proxy brush, etc. Then I'll say, and here's a better option. And then I'll tie it to the problem. Is their problem a pocket? Is it crowding? Is it mobility? Is it just hard to reach areas? Is it a gag reflex so they can't get around, the sevens, the 3, 7, 4, 7 on the linguals, whatever the problem is. And I'll say, now here's the best option. And once I show them all 3, they'll kind of like feel out which one they want to learn. And I'll show them, I'll tell them what the benefit is and what it's doing, and then I'll ask them to do it and I'll watch them. And I find those appointments, it's so rewarding because they come back and they say, I've had this problem for so long, and ever since you showed me X, Y, and Z, like I don't have that anymore. I wish I could say that was the case for all my patients. It's not. I'm not perfect, but it's those small wins that I do try to focus on because we all have bad days working as hygienists. So it's like, I think what keeps us all going is just focusing on the wins and the good days and the patients where they do come back and say that we made a difference. And I think that's all the reason why we all do what we do at the end of the day. So it's just kind of the show me, tell me, watch me with the products being the good, better, and the best, and getting 3 feet with the patients and understanding why they're not doing more than just brushing.
And do you actually have them do it as well? Like you include them, that's the whole like tell, show, do, right? And yeah, instead of just handing something and saying, here, use this, right? And then they go off and they're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Well, and that's exactly like when sometimes I even give people a goodie bag with stuff and they go, I don't want it. I have all this stuff at home. I don't use it. I don't use it. I don't want it. It's just clutter. And it's like, well, if it's just clutter and they're not using it, I want to understand why. So yeah,
it makes sense, right? Just get them to use it and feel comfortable, and then they'll go home feeling empowered.
totally.
I love that you walked us through that, how you handle it chairside and that conversation piece and bringing that up, because everybody has a bit of a different angle or way that they do it. And I just think it was really authentic and how you presented that and gave some of our listeners a great opportunity to start that conversation. And I think that your video of the floss, are you flossing? Are you flossing? Just makes me giggle because you're absolutely right. That seems to be like our repeat. And yet even us as professionals seem to stay on that because that's what we think is the best. And there are so many other options out there. And this is a great tool. And I think you're right. Having people demonstrate it and demonstrate that is the most important thing we need to do. We need to help them with the behavior modification to help reduce the risk of the outcome or the concern that could happen, that could come from it. So thank you for sharing that.
Or someone wrote, I don't want to open the chat and ruin anything, but someone wrote, I saw some patients get angry and then I couldn't read the rest. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's like some clients get angry when asked if they are flossing. They get defensive.
Yes, exactly. So then that was always and that was like why I brought up that as soon as you don't ask it that way, that they like immediately relax. Because I mean, I have asked around why people do hate the dentist. And I will say lecturing and like feeling like they're being judged is always number one. Number two is people have anxiety over the bill. So that pain is like the last thing that deters people from wanting to go to the dentist.
Yeah, and it's also like even going through that research, it was like so important because I'd never really learned about motivational interviewing, and so that was all new for me. And I'd have to write down the things before I would get on my calls with the participants because it just wasn't natural. And I'm not like, you should. And so I changed the whole way I was speaking with them, and I saw it happen. It was just like they shared what was so important to them, and they chose what was important and what they were willing to do. And then they did it because it wasn't a lecture, me coming to them and saying, you shouldn't do this and you should do that. And it was like eye-opening, and they all loved it. It was like they were so appreciative of it. It's amazing. So that's good for you, Steph. It's a great approach.
Oh my God, I did not. I just get I think it's like the cyclical pattern of inspiration. And I think it's like these moments that come together, like you guys inspire me, and I think we can all learn from each other. Again, I'm not perfect. Some patients hate me and they actually have it in their notes. Do not book with Steph. So it's just kind of like, we're all just people trying to do our best at the end of the day. So just learning how to work with other people. I will say it's not an easy task. And it's just part of our world.
Creating that team between ourselves and the patient is really challenging. and letting them know that whatever their answer is fine. We're just going to try and work with what, like you said, what their preferences are. That's part of respecting them as a human being, right? And so many tools are technique sensitive, and this one is not. So,
Yeah.
and they can do it while they're watching this webinar, right? So that is the beauty of it, and we definitely want to encourage that. So I know that you like to talk about with your patients when they're exposed to poor pH things, erosion, and can you just, I'm curious, like, how do you like lead in with that, because you've given us so many tools already today, so just give us a few more, and how you deal with that and encourage them to get that saliva rolling.
Yeah, so this is something that I've actually said to my patients. I was temping, I'm still temping on the weekends. My family does not like it because I don't see my children, my child or my husband, but I got to do it. And I said it last Saturday or a few weeks ago, and I'm just like, how does no one know this? But then, because I talk about it so much, and I'm not even I'm so passionate about perio. I'm not so passionate about like acid erosion, yet I talk about it, I think, the most. When I sit patients down, again, going back to when I was a young new hygienist, if someone had yellow teeth, I would never want to offend them or make them feel self-conscious, or I'd be worried if I brought it up that they would say, "You're insulting me. Now I'm self-conscious. My teeth are yellow." But now I'll show them with a mirror and I'll say, "Do you see how your teeth kind of are looking like a little extra shiny? Like we all have yellow teeth on the inside. Like if we were to strip away our enamel, under the enamel, we all have bright yellow, if not orange looking teeth. It's called dentin." I said, then we have enamel on top, and that's what protects that layer. I go, but I can sort of see in the lighting that that orange is really, really shining through. I said, like, do you tend to brush your teeth right after you drink tea or coffee? They're like, yes. And I'm like, you do that because you're scared of stains, right? And they said, yes. I'm like, you know that you're actually making it worse, because under a microscope, imagine you took a Jello cube in your toothbrush and started doing this. You're making like microscopic like wear of your enamel, because that acid is actually softening your enamel. And it's going to take about 30, I think Sensodyne changed it now to 45 minutes. I'd have to review the website, but I would just say ballpark 30 to 45 minutes for your saliva to actually harden that enamel again before you prevent any wear. And they're always shocked. They always say, why has no one talked about this? When I know hygienists do talk about this, because we all have that Sensodyne pH spectrum, chart in all of our practices. So acid erosion, I think hygienists and dentists actually do a great job talking about it. We talk about the acidic foods, but we don't talk about the patient's day-to-day and the pattern. Are they waking up, eating, drinking, brushing right away, and then running out the door? Or are they popping out their Invisalign trays at lunch, pouring balsamic and vinegar all over their salads, brushing their teeth, and then, sorry, I need a tissue, and then popping their trays back in? And I think there's such an opportunity here for the dentists, again, and the hygienists to collaborate a little bit tighter, because I'll hear it with my own ears. The dentists will give their patient the trays, go through the home care and say, you better keep your teeth clean and brush before you put those trays back in, or you're going to get caries, or you're going to get gingivitis, because all the plaque's going to be sitting at your gum line. So they're being told in the Invisalign post-op or in the dentist chair to brush 3 times a day, brush after meals. But then we see acid erosion and we're telling you don't brush. So, and I think I could guess that's like a global issue at every practice. So what happens is when patients say, well, what do I do? I'm in Invisalign, or what do I do? I don't want to brush before my coffee and my breakfast. I want to have my teeth fresh after. I'll say, rinse your mouth with tap water, And if you have food stuck anywhere, I'll always say floss, because I do think flossing, if done correctly, is the best way to clean in between your teeth. But if you're on the go, or you're rushing, or you're a non-flosser, just use something. Again, I'm not all just for the Stimmie. I love soft picks. For the right person, I love a proxy. For most people, I prefer regular string floss. I don't love floss sticks. I don't think they're very effective, but that's just me. And I'll just say, like, remove the food, swish your mouth. And for the people that are motivated by appearance, so stains, and I'll say to that person who I'm like, oh, your teeth are looking, you can kind of see the inside, rather than saying they're looking a bit orange or they're looking a bit yellow, but I can see the inner layer of your tooth. I'll say, if you're worried about stain, picture a white mug that you just had an Americano or an espresso. You had your last sip and then you let it sit. And you let it sit, and it's just going to be brown at the bottom of that white porcelain mug. But if you run it under warm water and dump it 3 to 4 times, eventually it's going to be clean. No scrubbing, no abrasiveness, just water. So I would say, like, treat your mouth and your white porcelain sink like that mug. Have your coffee, drink your water, swish, spit. If it's brown spit, there's still residue. Do it again and keep doing it until your spit runs clear. And if the sink is clear, there's no more residue left on your teeth. And like, they are fascinated by this conversation. And again, it just like solidifies like a new connection you have with the patient, because you just bonded with them on a very personal, and like you're talking about their oral care routine, not from like a clean teeth, fresh breath, no cavities, but it's like a disgusting moment where they feel, okay, you're human, I'm human, we both do these gross things, but like it's just very relatable. So I kind of just go through, like, that's what I would do, and that's what I think you're worried about. It's like the stains. They're not really worried about the acid erosion until they can like see those erosion lesions on the cervical thirds, or their teeth become super hypersensitive. And sometimes we're treating everything with Sensodyne, which in some cases can be a Band-Aid solution, versus like, what is the root cause of the problem? And the problem is just their routine and their habits. And it's like a mild little tweak. And once they understand why they're tweaking it, it just becomes intuitive and part of their day-to-day.
I think too, changing the conversation to talking about acid erosion naturally brings up, how do I fix it? And therefore then for those patients who are like, do not discuss oral hygiene. And I have those people, it's like, do not soft pick them, do not tepe them, do not do whatever. I'm like, that's a different way of caring for them and starting that conversation. So I think that that's really helpful. And as you're doing that, I'm like looking at my tea mug that is infamously like sitting here. I'm like, so how many times have I warmed that cup of tea up? And there's all my rings on my cup. But I just want to kind of pick your brain for a second, because I know starting a business and creating this is a lot of work and it takes a long time. And so there are lots of hygienists that are entrepreneurs that are looking at you going like, oh my gosh, Steph, how did you do this? What kind of advice? How would you focus on building this brand, or kind of just taking that leap? And I think the first thing is taking the leap and just going for it. But
Yeah.
do you have any advice that you want to leave with some of the, or, what are some of the common questions you get through your DMs and, you think would be the most helpful for our audience? Because I know you've inspired a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think perception is a very tricky thing, because you watch something on the outside. I mean, I was teasing Stimmie not for the first 2 years. I would say beginning of 2023, I started teasing on my personal Instagram leading up to my Kickstarter. And everyone thought, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? So the perception that when people launch a brand, that it kind of just like happens overnight or in like a couple months, it's people see it as one way when it's like really not what it is. And I would say, for anyone that is like considering it, or I know like you just said, people have DM me saying that they're passionate about certain products and they want to bring one to market. Just getting really clear on the problem you're solving, because there's 2 ways to look at it. An investor actually said this to me. He did not invest in my company, because he actually said to me, Some people create products in hopes that they are creating a product for a problem that doesn't exist, which is what he thought Stimmie was. And then he said, and other people see a problem in the market and then they create a solution to fix that problem. So getting very clear on the problem you're solving is, I'd say, like the most important. Like high level, the problem that I saw, there's the dental aspect, the social aspect. Dental aspect being flossing is tedious and time sensitive, and a lot of people don't do it, and we're living longer. We need to keep our teeth longer. We just need easier and smarter solutions. And then the social aspect is just having eyes wide open all the time, seeing fingernails in mouths, picking teeth, asking at a wedding or an event, do you have floss? You know, people are pulling out their Metro cards and like from their wallet and picking their teeth. So it's like the social aspect, like how do we keep things on the go? And then how do we make it smarter to cater to today's demographic, you know, Gen Zs? It's like they're not buying anything if it's not sustainable. So it's just, you know, thinking about all those things, which leads me to, you know, clear on your problem, number one, and then which would lead me to number two is who is your market? So initially, I thought my market would be not Gen Zs, it would be millennials, meaning people that actually do start to care about their teeth. Like when I think about when I'm a teen or in my young 20s, I just wanted the whitest teeth. I didn't care about having the healthiest teeth. And so I kind of tailored everything to that, just going to market, thinking about who my end user would be. The market, another one of my investors, he's actually one of my advisors, he said something to me and I think about it every single day. He said, always be listening because the market is always going to be speaking to you. And it is so true because from 2020, December 30th, 2020 was when I did my napkin sketch drawing this. And until so I just got distracted because I saw someone write something and I feel like I know what the question was. But anyways, he said the market's always speaking to you, and the feedback that I would hear has been so different throughout the years. So clear on your problem, you know, what problem are you solving? Who is your market? And then I would say, I don't know, I'm not an expert in formulation and I'm not an expert in consumables. So anything like a toothpaste or a mouthwash or a breath spray or a lozenge, like that, I have no idea what it costs to make. But when you're making something from scratch, it is very expensive. So my biggest advice that I did, because I had no choice, I didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to just go all in, is I built the entire business start to finish, what I thought would be start to finish. But it gave me enough perspective to know there are compliance regulations in every territory. There is different in terms of materials, where you're getting it from, logistics, where are you shipping from? What, you know, is it coming off a boat? Is it coming from a plane? How much does it weigh? You know, when a toothpaste company with hydroxyapatite, we've partnered with them for a collaboration. When I ship it out, I like regret partnering with them because it's heavy, you know? So it's like all these things you have to think about logistically. How much does it weigh? How long does it work for? You know, and then what your end goal is. So some people are just happy having their own business, having their own community, whether they make money from it enough to sustain their lifestyle, whether it's something that they can do on the side. There's no right or wrong way to run a business. I just knew from my own research and my own networking that when you do anything that is a low price point, which this is it's only going to be lucrative at scale. So there's going to be no such thing as Stephanie having a side business selling, you know, a couple of these a month here and there. I'll never make my money back. I will live forever in debt, and so will my child. So it is something you need to think about in terms of longevity, in terms of scale, small scale or large. And then that's going to open up your conversation of, well, what's your distribution strategy? So how are you going to get it mass market? How are you going to set up your manufacturing to support that? Who are the right engineers to support it? There are, you know, I went to my office this morning to go do CPR, and my one boss is like, "Are you okay?" Because he knows I'm like constantly stressed and busy and nonstop. And one of the girls is like, "But what do you do all day?" But like, no, but like, what do you do? And like, some people think all I do is Instagram. I go, "Oh my God, I post and ghost. I'm never on Instagram." Like, it is just constant putting out fires. The best thing to do is when you have an idea is talk about it, because you're going to learn something from so many different people, and you're going to lean on your own network at first because you trust them and you're comfortable talking to them, but the real learning happens when you talk to people you have no connection with, because you want those harsh comments. You want that 80-year-old man who said to me, "You're just creating something for a problem that doesn't exist." You learn something from so many different people, and it's very eye-opening. And it might actually be that, I hope I say this right. Is it Isaac Newton, when the apple like fell and he had his like aha moment, like he discovered gravity? It's like when you talk to strangers, you might have one idea and then you have your aha moment, and it changes everything. So the original Stimmie was actually long and it was fat and it was like the size of the original. And I just wanted to make a sexier rubber tip. And I think I didn't read the whole question, but someone actually did say, "What is the difference between this and a traditional rubber tip stimulator?" In terms of function, it's the exact same. Where we differentiate is in form. So the initial one was ergonomic, and it didn't have a cap. It was the number one feedback I got from people. "You should put a cap on it so it stays clean." I'm like, "Well, I can't afford a cap." It took me 18 months before I could raise enough money to then start to engineer and design the cap. But it was long. I just wanted it to look pretty on the bathroom counter. And the reason being, the 33% of my patients that liked a rubber tip all said that they just hide it away in their drawer because it was ugly. And why are people buying Cocoa Floss? Well, it's pretty. Why are people buying Quip? It's pretty. Boca, it's pretty. I'm like, I'm just going to make it pretty. But then when I would talk to people and socialize the idea, as scared as I was that someone was going to copy me, I know if people are listening and they have these ideas, even when they DM me, I can tell they're like nervous. Like, what if someone takes my idea? I promise you, if they've taken your idea, it's already in the works. They are not going to take it from an initial conversation. But when I would talk to people, they would instantly talk to me like this. And they're like, "Oh, I just ate. I probably have food in my teeth." And it was that moment where I was like, aha, this is the apple falling and hitting me on the head, discovering gravity. This was like my aha moment. I need to make this packable. I need to make this designed for pockets, so that when people are interacting face to face in those daily busy life moments, they have something that's easy, accessible, and on the go. So just talk about it with caution, and listen to your gut. It never lies. The first 2 years of doing this, pre-market, pre-production, pre-anything, I lost so many years of my life through stress because I talked to the wrong people. I gave them too much information and I got in my head a lot. It taught me to know when to shut up, know when to be careful, and know when to say to the person, "You don't want to talk to me. I can tell right away. I'm reading the room. We don't have to have this conversation." And you just get really good practice at refining your pitch and refining what is meant for you and what is not meant for other people, and just preserving your time.
Thank you for being so vulnerable. I do love that you gave us those steps, and I do think you need to share it, and getting your roundtable discussion with your friends and colleagues, but when you bring it out to advisors, and as you said, multiple people will give you different angles and different feedback. So a no usually is a great opportunity to figure out how you can move that into a yes. And it may be a no right now, and that feedback was invaluable that you received. It's like, okay, let me refine my pitch, refine that. So I really do appreciate you being vulnerable about that, honestly, and being inspiring for so many people as they've blown up the chat with that. So.
Oh, I mean, if anyone wants to connect with me after, like, I remember when I had a big problem after my Kickstarter, and that one investor who says to me, keep listening, the market's always speaking. We met when he found me on Kickstarter. We met the next day. And I didn't even say, hi, how are you? I just opened my laptop. I'm like, I need your help. And I needed him to help me solve this problem, parting ways with two initial partners. And I was so nervous and so scared. And he actually said, like, the fact that you have the foresight to come to me and like be so open and vulnerable, he's like, I'm gonna help you. And that was a year and a half ago, and he has never stopped helping me. So it's like, just don't be scared to open up. And then what he said at the end of the conversation was, you are going to need to give back. You know that, right? I'm like, I will always bend over backwards for people, not because of this, it's just who I am, but I truly mean that. If anyone ever does want to connect, like, I am very open book and happy to help where I can.
Well, this has been a mind-blowing session. Like my
Yeah.
brain hurts.
Oh.
So many things, like I want to, because I know how long, I started a dental instrument company. It took me years to get that going. I started RDHU. I didn't even know, like, even before the 2009 first calendar, it was like 2007 when I started it. So it's like, there's so many, I have so many questions for you, but I know we're running out of time, but it's like, the roadblocks and how does it shape your professional life? Like, it's just, there's so many things. And I feel like we're going to run out of time, but how about we just kind of stick to like, what was the most rewarding part? Because we have all those, I feel like you have to have grit, right? And you can't quit. There's so many times where I know for myself, I wanted to quit. I'm like, I'm done. I've had it. It's not easy, but there's something in you that just keeps going, right? And you just follow your gut. I always follow my gut. And it's like so many things. So what would be the most, well, I ended on a high, like what would be the most rewarding part of this journey?
I mean, I can tie the two together, like the grit and the roadblock aspect and the reward aspect. I think they go hand in hand, and we've all heard that expression, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that expression in business comes from like slow and steady wins the race. But I look at it now, living it a very different way. I think it's a marathon because I think it's a marathon because as a startup, you train yourself like a professional athlete. To your point, if you decide to get on that green and you're going to run that race and you're going to start, like, you are not stopping if you've been given that opportunity. And if the market's speaking to you and things are going in the right direction and you see the finish line, you can't just stop and give up. But you need to know when to take a break, but you also have to have it in you. Okay, if I'm an athlete every day. There's no days off. Like, I'm eating healthy, I'm working out. I mean, this is the athlete speaking, not Stephanie, because I don't eat healthy and I don't work out. But it's like, you're getting up every day, you're showing up every day, you're doing your emails, you're prioritizing tasks. What is the most important, least important? You are just holding yourself accountable because you don't have a boss telling you what to do, giving you that pressure to stay on time for your appointments and your patients, etc. Like, you are your biggest piece of accountability. And what would lead me to the best part of this journey is I owe everything that I know today through people, connecting with people. I owe everything that I've learned, either extracting information from the people that I've met along the way, but I've also gained all my momentum and ammunition just from the wonderful people who have supported me along the way. Like, just you guys, just people wanting to be a part of this and show up, and Instagram and all that stuff, and people that like want to be a part of this in terms of, product partners like Curion. Beth on the call here, she's works with Curion, and they want to be a part of this, so you can actually buy your Stimmies through them, which is going to be super exciting for practices. But it's just connecting with people. You're going to learn everything. It's going to give you that ammunition to keep going, and it holds it. Now my boss, and I said this in my most recent Instagram or my LinkedIn video, is like I'm partners now with my consumers. It's no longer about me and my gains. Like I need to show up for my consumers and my clients and my customers because they're showing up for me, supporting me every single day. And like you got to be in it for the long haul. So
Awesome.
that's it.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much, Steph, for sharing. Like this was totally inspirational, at the same time educational, which is what we always try to find, that wonderful balance. And so thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. And thank you to everybody for being on with us as well. And like Steph said, you can get the Stimmie through Curion, so curion.ca. Typically, I would go through what's coming up at RDHU, but I think we're running out of time. We have got a minute. So please visit rdhu.ca and check out our courses. We've got tons of live streaming courses tonight, again, with Anna Louise Tolan. We just started our Perio program with Lorraine Gambacor, independent practice, hands-on programs. We have a wonderful hands-on coming up, which is not on the website yet, with Anna Louise as well, which will be in June. So if ever you need anything, you know, instrumentation, oral cancer screening techniques, there's so many things, sharpening, there's so many wonderful myofunctional therapy, ortho. So just please check out our website, rdhu.ca. I know some of you are new with us today, so we'd love to have you. And thank you for being a part of RDHU for those of you who are. And I really enjoyed today. So thank you, ladies, for being on the cast with me. And it was awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
This was so great, Steph. And just to reiterate Kat's point, there's a lot of people on here who are very inspired and educated from what you were saying. There's a couple people asking, they know that they can get they can order through Curion for their practices, but those who are looking to connect with you, can you just share how they can get in touch with you?
Of course. So the Instagram handle for Stimmie is It's Stimmie. You can also connect with me on my personal Instagram account, Steph Knight. LinkedIn, I'm Stephanie Nightingale. I can write that here. I wish I could like link the actual link. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I mean, at least I try to, but however it works, I'm always happy to connect where I can. Instagram, if I don't respond right away, I apologize. It's like part of my boundaries. I cannot be on Instagram all the time. It will drain me, but LinkedIn, I'm very responsive and I will always get back to my messages eventually.
And we always send out a follow-up email as well. So whoever registered will get the follow-up email for the RDH View, and we'll give you Steph's information. You'll get your certificates as well. So just give us a few days into next week, and we'll get all that to you.
Thank you guys.
Enjoy
Bye,
it.
everyone. We'll see you guys all, and we'll see everybody back in February.
We have lasers here tomorrow at RDHU. I'll be here if anyone's interested in getting laser certified. Not too late to join us. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.